And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers. Hearts of the Fathers is a podcast featuring men from different generations gathered to share their life experiences, their generation's perspective, and the Word of God, so we can grow as husbands, fathers, brothers, friends, and men of God in the kingdom generation of Jesus Christ.
Welcome. This is Pastor Prentice Dobbins of Covenant Family Church, and we are glad that you are joined us here on Hearts of the Fathers broadcast. We are so glad to have with us on our panel some of our returning hosts, and we have a new topic and a new guest as we celebrate a man and his different things in the month of June. So let's go ahead and get to our guest. In our millennial chair is Evan Hunter. Say hello to everybody.
Hello. It's good to be back with you all.
And then next to him is the young one.
Hello, everybody.
Can I say your name first?
Oh, man, I'm a little early. I'm ready today.
Little Ron. And then to my left, we have Strongman Barnes.
Hello.
A little bit more, please.
Hello.
Okay, thank you. Good. And then to his right, our guest for today, Cory Dobbins, and we're going to let him introduce himself in a little bit after we talk about what our subject is for today. So remember, in the month of June, we have been looking at specifically a man and several aspects of our lives as men, talking about how we can handle the pressures and responsibilities of manhood, fatherhood, brotherhood, and things like that. Specifically, we've already talked about a man and his body. Today, we're going to talk about a man and his mind. And our guest that's with us today, Cory, is going to help us be able to get to that. So let's give him an opportunity to introduce himself, and then we'll get into our scripture for today as well as our topic. Welcome to Hearts of the Fathers broadcast. Inside joke. Look at episode 5. You'll get it. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Cory.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Cory Dobbins. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a licensed associate marriage and family counselor. I've worked with a few companies. I have my own online private practice as well. I work from a range of different issues and topics, families, kids, marriage. It ranges from anything. I try to be able to work with anything that comes to me, but if I can't, I try to help them find somebody who can help them. I can't be so caught up on me that I can't pass them along to somebody who may be more effective with a certain person. But God has helped me be confident in what I've done, and that's taken some time, going through some trials in this field and some learning curves, and whew.
But you do what's best for the client.
Yes, it's always them first.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll be able to give us, and I know you will be able to give us some good wisdom and advice that we can use as men. We've been talking about how things weigh on us as men physically. We've talked about. Today we're going to be talking about mentally, how things weigh on us mentally. And I wanted you to know that at the very beginning, there's always this, the first question that we ask is that, why does your mind matter? Why does it matter that you have a sound mind or a healthy mind? And in your opinion as a therapist, why is that important?
That's crucial, because as the mind goes, everything else in your life goes. The decisions you make, the choices, who you allow in your life, where you go in your career, how you handle stress, how you handle difficult situations, how do you handle people, how do you handle kids, how you handle a spouse, how you handle everything in life, how you handle God. Because that's your mental health affects your relationship with God. And some people don't understand that. And you can't spiritualize everything to get rid of some mental issues. Your mind is just as physical as your arms, your legs, and you have to take care of it.
Yeah, and a lot of times people make this distinction between, physical and mental. But as you mentioned, your mental health is your brain health.
Yes.
And and I know that a lot of times we start talking about mental health and wellness, that people will always kind of go back to childhood experiences and things like that, because those are the foundations. So let me answer this question out the bat. During your generation, was it acceptable or okay to talk about mental health and mental health related issues? Evan, what about in your generation? Was it okay?
I would say that it was, in my generation, it was getting there, but as men, we really didn't do that. It was certainly what I would consider to be uncommon to talk about those things openly and freely. You started seeing it trending towards to a place where it wasn't more acceptable, but it wasn't quite there yet in my generation, especially as a young person. I didn't see a lot of that.
Well, Strongman, in your generation, boomers, what was it? Was it an acceptable thing to get into that, or was it a taboo?
That was a taboo. You know, you really didn't know if a person was going through something, because we try to shield that from everybody else, and even sometimes ourselves. I mean, we just don't portray that. We don't show that. So no, it was never really an open thing when I was growing up.
And of all the generations that are here on the table, Gen Z is probably more vocal than anyone else. What is the experience, or what you think about Gen Z and mental health issues and things like that, or mental wellness?
I think the mental health space, like in my generation, it got like larger. I think a lot of people learned more about mental health and were able to, I don't know, say some people they'll diagnose themselves sometimes, but some of it be real. But I think a lot of times like ADHD or bipolar things, that stuff had become more prevalent than I think, as I grow up. Because I think people, I don't know why, I think just the knowledge of it, people might realize, they might have something that it may be passed down to them, or they might not have known just because it's more knowledgeable of the mental health issues.
Has it been your experience, Cory, that mental health issues are increasing in number, or is it just more that people are able to and willing to seek the help that they need?
I think it's a little bit of both. You see so much stressful. Our world is way more stressful, way more stressful. And then you have the dangers of, people self-diagnosing themselves with all this information out there. You have to be careful. Even when I work with patients, they have a diagnosis, I have to push them past labeling themselves as the diagnosis, because that makes it harder for them to overcome it, because I identify with this diagnosis. And so, yes, you understand you have this diagnosis, but it don't allow it to have you with that. And so it is a increasing need for the balance in working with mental health, because I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. I have heard so many kids say, I'm this. They have labeled themselves with their diagnosis, so it excuses all kinds of behavior. And so my job was to, this is your diagnosis, but let's work on some skills to help you overcome so it won't control your life. And the same with anybody else, you have to, it's just like if you have a broken arm, you're not a broken arm. Yeah. Your arm is broken. So let's do the things that we do to get it to heal. And so that's what we work on. That's what I work on.
I think that's extremely important to talk about, the fact that your identity is not your diagnosis. That's amazing. You are tuned to Hearts of the Fathers. We've been looking at specifically a man and his mind, and we're going to deal with some more details and more other issues and stuff in just a second, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Husbands, love your wives. Seek the highest good for her and surround her with a caring, unselfish love. Just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify the church, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word of God, so that in turn he might present the church to himself in glorious splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy, set apart for God, and blameless. You have tuned in to the Hearts of the Fathers podcast, brought to you by Covenant Family Church of North Little Rock, Arkansas. We invite you to join us for worship services in person or online on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. or any of our online discipleship meetings for men, women, and teen boys throughout the week. Covenant Family Church, where we help you in building a home in Jesus, one life at a time.
Welcome back. This is Pastor Dobbins at Covenant Family Church, and you're tuned into the Hearts of the Fathers broadcast. We've been talking about a man and his mind with our guest, Cory Dobbins, and we've been looking specifically at men and mental wellness issues. I like to use the word wellness because it is about getting better. Just like we get better physically, we can get better mentally. And we've been looking at how these things weigh on us as men and our responsibilities. But we do know, and I can describe from my own experience, that the stress of growing up in childhood produced trauma, and trauma is a real thing. Those are real issues. So let's talk a little bit about men and trauma. How, in your experiences, is it easier, or has it gotten easier for men to address trauma, or are they still doing like what strong men said, kind of like pushing it under the rug and not addressing stuff?
Well, you get a little bit of both. I have had some men that, came in, but, it's still that block. I don't reveal myself to you because I don't know how you're going to judge me. And so I have to be very, very gentle with men. I make it my point, not to downgrade anything, but I know based on my experience when I went to therapy, it's just one of the hardest things you do because you've had enough people beat up on you in your life. You don't need another person to beat up on you. And so I make it my point. I don't care if they're coming in with relationship issues and the spouse or the partner says they doing this and they doing this and doing this. My angle is I know it's something deeper. Mm-hmm. So be patient with me while I be patient with them so I can help you guys improve overall, because it's never just a one-sided issue.
Okay.
It's never one-sided, but a lot of people, let's slow down. Let's calm down. And let's do this. Because I'm looking at it through a different lens. I look at it through my lens as well, because, it's when you're a man, you're failing. That's one of the biggest hurts you can ever feel, when you feel like you're failing in life. You're feeling like you're failing your family. You're feeling like you're failing in everything and nothing's going right. You don't need somebody else to beat up on you. But here's the thing I try to tell the other person. I'm not just going to let them get away with doing certain things. I'm not going to justify that. But if we get down to the root of the problem, this will work out for everybody.
So you're talking about accountability. You're going to hold them accountable for
accountable.
their choices and decisions. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
But that comes in time. Give me a little bit of time.
You sound like you're a very patient person.
I have learned patience because people have to be patient with me because I'm a man. I tell all my clients I'm not exempt. I'm not exempt. I can bring up another people say my faults and label them out to you line for line, precept for precept. He do this and he do this and he's like this, and yes, but God has given me the grace to do this and to be objective when I'm dealing with other people. It don't mean I'm gonna fix my own problems. I've done therapy with people, and I go home and start crying, and nobody know because I can't reveal that to you. I can't tell you, but the grace of God allows me to help others, and He will send somebody to help me when I need it. And so that's how I look at it.
Cool. What about this thing regarding younger people, and that I hear the word trauma coming out of them almost with every situation, everything that happens. What's been your experience with your colleagues, people maybe in college? Because I know, and this is just my experience as a teacher, retired teacher. I like to always put that in there. to me, the hardest decade of life, and it's just my opinion, the hardest decade of life is 18 to 28. Because you've been supported, and then all of a sudden you're no longer supported. And now you're going to test all those theories, all that stuff that you spouted. Now you're getting ready to test it because you got to live it. What's been your experience with younger generation regarding that?
I think sometimes people allow their traumas to keep too much of a hold on them. Like, for example, it could be like something that happened in high school. Like, I could think of, for example, if
no specific names.
Okay. No names. But let's, for example, if something happened, real traumatic happened to you in high school and childhood, I can see a person in college, living their life based on this traumatic experience. Like, and it's not a good way to live, out of that fear and stuff like that. And I think that is taking a hold on people in today's time. I think. And also, I want to just go back to you, just a question for you. So I never done therapy, and I think a lot of people my age haven't done therapy or don't do any type of mental work. So how can somebody get started on that, or can you get me of how that process works? Like, do we meet? Was it monthly or weekly? Or how does the process work? I would like to know.
Well, I usually start off weekly. I try to make it as easy as possible because it is overwhelming experience at times. Because you're meeting somebody who doesn't know you and you're afraid to be judged about, whatever you're going through. And so you try to look up somebody that you feel that you can relate to. A lot of therapists put their bios out there and with how they proceed. And then you can a lot of them do the free initial call just to, talk about what you're bringing to therapy. And you can see if they're a good fit for you. And even in the process, if you find out that this person not a good fit for you, there's others. It's just like going to get a car. Sometimes you want to see which one you want, and if the dealership doesn't offer the one you want, okay, you're not obligated. You're not obligated to stay in therapy with somebody you're not a fit for. But here's the other side of it. You're going to be uncomfortable. Get that, you're going to be uncomfortable talking about some things that you may have never talked about with somebody outside a certain circle or your family. And you can't allow that discomfort to deceive you into saying, this is not a good fit for me. I can't do this. It's going to be uncomfortable. Hopefully you get somebody who is, very compassionate and welcome you into that and understand, like, hey, this is, it's going to be fine, and just keep encouraging you to keep coming back. I know it's difficult because I tell people all the time, hey, it's uncomfortable. You don't know me. You telling a perfect stranger about all your deepest things. But hopefully they're gracious enough to, motivate you to keep coming. And if it's not a fit, try somebody else.
Thank you. Those are good words. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Cool. What about in your gentleman's, we got just about a little less than a minute. What about in your situations in terms of trauma? Again, no names, no stuff like that.
Well, trauma lives on. I mean, if you let it, you got to get to the point where, how do I handle this situation? Because it comes up and try to attack me a lot of times. But how do I get past that? That's my question.
Okay.
Cool. Well, then we will pick back up with that question after the break. You are tuned into Hearts of the Fathers. This is Pastor Prentice Dobbins of Covenant Family Church. We're glad that you're here. We'll be right back after this break.
Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. Do not exasperate them to the point of resentment with demands that are trivial or unreasonable or humiliating or abusive, nor by showing favoritism or indifference to any of them, but bring them up tenderly with loving kindness in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Ephesians 6, verse 4. You have tuned in to the Hearts of the Fathers podcast, brought to you by Covenant Family Church of North Little Rock, Arkansas. We invite you to join us for worship services in person or online on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. or any of our online discipleship meetings for men, women, and teen boys throughout the week. Covenant Family Church, where we help you in building a home in Jesus, one life at a time.
Welcome back. This is Pastor Prentice Dupins of Covenant Family Church, and you are tuned into Hearts of the Fathers. We've been talking about a man and his mind. We've been looking at mental wellness, mental health for men, and talking about a lot of different issues. Now, Strongman, before the break, you posed a question. You want to restate that? You had a question?
Trauma. We're talking about trauma and having to face trauma periodically. And when it comes, what do you do? I mean, to stay sane.
Well, you have to focus on, instead of always focusing on what it's doing to you, what is the resilience that you have? Because up to this point, you've been able to at least somewhat manage it. Mm-hmm. And so don't look at yourself as a total failure. I can't handle this, but address how it is affecting you. Is it affecting my ability to sleep, eat, interact with people, deal with life? Then we can talk about that. So we're building some security so it won't, because whatever you're afraid of, eventually you're going to have to face it. Yeah. You can run from it for the rest of your life. But facing it means I have to look at the holes that it has left in my life. Mm. And sometimes we want to get and just start covering up the holes because I can't let anybody see me like this. Let me cover these holes up. Let me cover these holes up and cover these holes up. And sometimes you have to sit in them. How did these holes get here? Mm. What decisions, what choices, maybe mine or someone else's, that left these holes in me? And how do I walk through this? Because sometimes we sit in and we get the chance to really fix the foundation of like, my thought process that whether it's me putting holes back in or allowing people to keep putting holes back in me, instead of just filling them up real quick to hide so I can save face. Mm. Cool. In therapy, you're not here to save face. I tell them, I'm not, it's just me, man. I'm just like, I'm right there with you. Let's walk through this thing together. It's just like I have a different perspective on it. So, I tell people, I'm not going to beat you up, man. Because that means I'm better than you. I'm not better than you.
Cool. I like that. You have noticed that on the panel, we have a new guest in our chair on the end. I'm giving him an opportunity to introduce himself. He actually will be one of our hopefully future guests talking about a particular topic. Yes, sir. And as Darren Hamilton. Darren, go ahead. You're Gen X in the house.
Oh, Lord, don't start. So thank you for having me, and I'm excited about this topic. I've had mental health issues in my family, and to have an expert here today, I just thought it would be good for me to just share some things with him and get his thoughts on some things as well. This issue right here is critical because I also work with a lot of young people, and they are dealing with it, and they need help. And so hopefully I can pull some things from this brother in the panel that will allow us to have some seeds and tools to help these young people.
Cool. When we talk about the trauma, and you kind of alluded to it, Cory, and that is that we're also looking for healing. Mm-hmm. So you talked about not covering up the holes, about dealing with it. So your goal as a therapist is to get people to a place of healing?
Yes, sir.
And what are some of the techniques? I know that you can't get into all of the things that you do, but what are some of the techniques that you can use? Because we live in this era of self-help. So if somebody hears a solution, they think, I'm going to do that. And like, no, that's not, do not go out and get penicillin. Okay. So
I give a
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I give this disclaimer. Just because it works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
That's right.
You can't, it's no one size fits all. And that's what we get in trouble is with the self-diagnosis is that, well, they did it and it must work. It worked for them. But their makeup and their experiences is completely different than yours. You may have similar experience, but you'll never experience the way they experience it. And so don't assume that you can do that. And At times you can learn some skills that will help you. And if it does, fine. But you have to be realistic about if it's helping, because you're not doing this for the simple fact to show it off in front of people that I'm better now. I'm an expert now. No, you are doing this for you. Is it working for you? That's where you have to be real. Is this working for me? Is what I'm doing working for me? And so we had, and we'll sit down and talk about, hey, what's working and what's not working right now. Let's just lay it out. What's working? This working, because I'm not here to dismantle your life and give you a whole new persona of how to handle life. No, let's do what's working. And what's not working, let's sit down and work together, because I'm not here to I'm not the expert of your life. You're the expert of your life. And that's the good and the bad. And so if it's not working, I can bring some things, some strategies, like calming down strategy. If you have problems with anger, let's work on calming down. If you have a problem with anxiety, let's deal with some techniques to help you overcome the anxiety. Because a lot of the thing about anxiety is fearing what the worst could happen. And I don't know how to handle that. But there's no guarantee that the worst is going to happen. But the anxiety holds on to the absolute worst possible scenario. So let's get on, is this happening? No. It's a possibility of happening. Yes, it's always a possibility. It's a possibility of anything happening. But you can't live your life in fear. When you sat down in a chair, did you think about that this chair was going to fall? You didn't. You had a lot of faith that this chair was not going to collapse under you. So you do have some strengths. You do have some beliefs and faith in some area of your life. You just don't realize it. So I'm here to help pull that out.
One of the things I've noticed about, you kind of alluded to this earlier about the physical healing, physical thing. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've noticed is, and I'm not trying to knock your generation, but the younger generation seem to want things to be instantaneous. And just like with a physical healing, it depends on what it is. If you've had major surgery or a hip replacement, you're looking at a year or more to be able to get fully back. Does that also apply to certain mental issues that there is not hey, it's going to happen tomorrow, but the scale depends on what you're working on and how you're working through it? Yeah,
but anything that takes, anything that's working, sometimes it's just going to take time. You go in the gym, you don't do one day in the gym and think you're going to be ripped. That's unrealistic. You're not. It's not going to happen.
That's true.
You're going to actually gain weight before you start losing weight. I had one trainer that told me that, and that kind of helped settle me, because when you get in there, you start working out, and why is the scale going up? Why am I not? But you missed the part where you're losing inches. You're not gaining weight. I mean, you're gaining weight, but you're losing inches. I think that's a slow process.
I think for the like we bring the aspect of working out, you can see that, but I think in the mind, people can't see. They don't know what their progress looks like. Like they might get something to tick them off, and they dial back and they think, oh, my hard work is nothing. So what is that? Like, what is the scale that you can use to know that you are getting better, you are progressing? Is it, I don't know. What you can tell me?
Well,
first, we probably have to hold that
we'll hold after that, but I'll give you an example.
That's a good. Okay,
that's a good question.
So we're talking about healing. We're gonna pick that back up after the break. This is Pastor Prentice Dobbins. You are tuned into Hearts of the Fathers here at Covenant Family Church, and we'll be back after this break with our guest Cory Dobbins and our panel.
Children, obey your parents in the Lord. That is, accept their guidance and discipline as His representatives. For this is right, for obedience teaches wisdom and self-discipline. Honor, esteem, value as precious your father and your mother, and be respectful to them. This is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may have a long life on the earth. Ephesians 6, verses 1 through 3. You have tuned in to the Hearts of the Fathers podcast, brought to you by Covenant Family Church of North Little Rock, Arkansas. We invite you to join us for worship services in person or online on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. or any of our online discipleship meetings for men, women, and teen boys throughout the week. Covenant Family Church, where we help you in building a home in Jesus, one life at a time.
Welcome back to a Covenant Family Church and Hearts of the Fathers. We are talking about a man and his mind with our guest, Cory Dobbins. And before the break, you had a question, sir, right?
Yes, sir.
And so go ahead and restate that question.
Yeah, I was asking about when you are working on your mind and your mental, you can't really see that like a muscle. How do you know when you're progressing and your mental is getting better? Is it situational or is it,
Well, there are measurements you can use to, you do a self-assessment. How are you progressing? The therapist can go back and ask you, how do you think you're progressing in this? How are you progressing in this? How are you responding? And sometimes that can shock you, like, oh, I'm not getting angry as quick. Or the therapist can point out, like, yeah, I see this in you. I had one client I had to tell recently, hey, you're making progress. You just can't see it. My job is to see it, and I tell you what I see, because sometimes you're too close to the mirror, and that's your main focus. And sometimes you have to shift your focus. You can't be on, I'm going to work out 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's not realistic. You can't be so consumed by it, because you won't make progress, because you're measuring every decision that you make, and it's going to wear you out, and you're going to feel like you're not making progress. Sometimes you have to just, let's go. Let's check in weekly. Let's check in bi-weekly on the progress. But right now, we're just going to work on how you're resolving the problem, how you're dealing with the problem. Let's work on the how, not the outcome right now. Because the instantaneous, you're going to frustrate yourself.
That's good. I like that. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's not 24/7, but in those moments where you do respond well, then you can say you did a good job.
And in the moments that you fail, there's a learning moment too. Yeah. Because like I responded to, because you get a chance to analyze the emotional response to it, to whatever you failed at, or you thought you failed at, but it's a learning lesson.
Cool. You had questions you want to ask?
Yeah, I did. So we do a lot of work with youth here in the community. Mm-hmm. And I was curious to know, what are some of the behaviors that you can see to kind of give you a little bit of insight? Hey, this person may be struggling with something, to where we can reach out and try and get them some help.
Well, you see a lot of anger. You see a lot of, medicating, whether it's on video games, food, drugs, or anything. It's a lot of medicating going on because there's a bigger issue going on. Mm-hmm. You bring up a lot of fatherlessness. When the father's not in the home or involved in a kid's life, there's going to be some problems. I don't care how good somebody is to that child, there's still going to be that missing piece. And they're responding to it, whether it may not be in front of the family, but it may be in school. It may be out in public, because, and so I'm working with them to face that anger and that pain. They don't want to face that anger and that pain. And so I have to pull it out of them. And sometimes they look at me as a father figure, and I use that space to kind of teach and show them, and like, hey, you're not going to get very far doing this. And it's not a judgment thing. You have your own life. Let's measure about what has going on in your life that's not working.
Yeah,
I'm not
makes
here
sense.
to judge you.
Mm-hmm. Is isolation similar to that? Isolation, lack of confidence?
Yes, because we all take different routes in how we deal with the pain.
Right.
I know me personally, I'm an isolator. I will isolate myself in a second to not deal with stuff, because I just like, but also that is good, because sometimes I need space just to process.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use it as shield the world away from me, because I don't want nothing else to do with the world.
Gotcha. Last thing, because I don't want to hog the time, is it okay to say, are you okay? And then once they answer that, to get them to you. Yeah,
it's okay to say, are you okay? But sometimes they don't know they're not okay.
Mm.
And it's a saying now. It's like, it's okay not to be okay.
Exactly.
It's okay not to be okay. And that we don't stop there.
Thank you. Good word, brother.
We talked about some of the pushback in terms of men, but have you also found a pushback in terms of faith? and faith and mental illness that a lot of people in the faith community tend to shy away from seeking help mentally because they feel like, I guess from some kind of religious point of view, they should already have it together.
Yeah, but that's not realistic. If you really look at the Bible, you have plenty of examples of people who just like, I've had it, I'm done, I don't want to talk to nobody, I don't want to be around nobody, leave me alone.
That's right.
You got so many examples. You have Moses, you got Elijah, you have so many, crying tears of pain of like, I don't know how to deal with this, even my own mistakes. God can never forgive me for this. And he knew about it before you were ever born. So how can he not forgive? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that God's going to just zap it away. Sometimes he's going to put you in front of people that's like, hey, let's talk about this. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this. That doesn't mean you have any lack of faith. Do you have lack of faith if you have to have this medication to keep you alive?
No.
It's not lack of faith. God uses it all the time. We just try to put God in a box of how he's going to do it. Because we read the stuff in the Bible and say he's going to do it just like that. That ain't necessarily true. That's not true. You can't be so closed-minded to think that God's going to do it this way so you can avoid stuff. Sometimes, God will sit with you in those holes in your life and like, let's do it.
Well, what if you are, let's say, you mentioned earlier about shopping around for a therapist. What if you go to this therapist and they don't necessarily agree with your religious viewpoint or whatever? Is that a time when you might want to look for someone else? Well,
not necessarily. The therapist is not there to put their point on you. That's in our code.
Cool.
We should not put our religious beliefs on anybody, because whatever they bring, and if they don't feel comfortable, they should refer you out to somebody else in dealing with religious matters. But also there's that, hey, you might need to rethink this, how you looking at this from a religious point, because it could be hurting you.
Gotcha.
Because your religious habits and traditions may be the very thing that's causing you all this distress.
Pastor, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, we got about a minute.
Okay, quick question. What if someone actually brings that conversation to you and asks the question from a religious standpoint? At that point, are you able to communicate and share?
Absolutely. I welcome it. Okay. Because that's my background. I wouldn't be doing this without God.
All right.
I promise you.
All right.
I wouldn't be doing this with God, but I know how God has led me to say certain things to certain people in certain situations. And they like, how do you know that? I don't know how I know that. I just know that God leading me to say this.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that I'm still not dealing with the mental part of it.
That's right.
It's just like a physical doctor or people in the medical field for the physical body. That that's awesome. Y'all, we don't have enough time on this broadcast. I thought we were gonna I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm like, no, we are not having enough time to be able to really dig into this. But I do want to say thank you, Cory, for giving your time.
Yes, no problem.
And sharing your heart. And hopefully helping us and other men that see this broadcast understand that
we need it. I'm
mental
telling you.
Yes, sir.
We need each other and we need this.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
You're listening to Hearts of the Fathers. We're so glad that you're with us. We'll see you.
You have tuned in to the Hearts of the Fathers podcast, brought to you by Covenant Family Church of North Little Rock, Arkansas.